Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the live game review to Everton's 1-0 defeat to West Ham United at Goodison Park on Sunday. Rafa Benitez suffers his first defeat as Everton manager at Goodison Park, and it is at the hands of David Moyes. How ironic, how Everton and how poor of a game of football that was, really. We're going to sit down and we're going to talk about it today. I know the comments are going to be inundated with comments about Abdoulaye Doucouré's injury and my thoughts on that. We have just uploaded a video literally just about 30 seconds ago giving my thoughts on the Abdoulaye Doucouré injury and how this now presents itself as a massive problem for Rafa Benitez, not only because he's losing such an important player, not only because he's losing a player with such quality who's had an amazing start to the season and a massive impact on Everton's season, but also because Rafa Benitez is losing a player that ultimately I think the system, Everton's system, is solely based around, or certainly majorly based around, and now I think changes have to be made to that system and those tactics in order to be able to deal without having Abdoulaye Doucouré in the side. But as I said, I have uploaded a video giving my thoughts on that one. Don't go and watch it just yet. Stay with us and watch this live stream first, and then you can go and watch it. It's only about 20 minutes long. Lash it on while you're making your tea or something. But we are going to talk about Everton's 1-0 defeat to West Ham United in today's live stream. As I said, not the greatest game of football whatsoever. It was a 0-0 written all over it. I think if you were a neutral watching at home on your Sunday afternoon, wanting a little bit of entertainment while you're eating your roast or you're having your cup of tea, I think you were probably absolutely fuming. I've always said I don't really care what the neutral thinks as long as Everton go out and get a result. However, Everton didn't go out and get a result this weekend. And as I said, it wasn't the greatest game whatsoever. It certainly wasn't the greatest performance from an Everton point of view. I think we seemed a little bit tired. We seemed a little bit void of ideas. We seemed a little bit void of quality. Obviously, we come into this game without Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. We knew from Rafa Benitez's press conference the day before the game that both of those players were still out injured. We did have Alex Iwobi and Seamus Coleman back in the side, which was a boost, of course, given the weakness of our squad in recent weeks. It was always good to have some players back and fit to play. Rafa Benitez set out with Jordan Pickford in goal, Luca Dean at left back, Seamus Coleman at right back, Michael Keane and Ben Godfrey the centre back partnership. Obviously, Yerry Mina deemed not fit enough to play in this game after playing for Colombia on Thursday night. Massive blow for Everton. Look, we'll talk about the centre-halves a little bit later on in the stream when we talk a bit more in depth about the game. I actually think Michael Keane and Ben Godfrey were okay on Sunday, to be perfectly honest with you. I had a couple of comments on the instant match reaction saying, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about, they were awful, but I actually thought the pair of them were relatively good. However, I still think it's something is to be said that when your two centre-halves go out and put in a performance that you look at and you think, do you know what, you've done relatively well there, but you can still sit down a day or two later and say we still massively missed, the other centre-half who wasn't fit enough to play or wasn't available to play. I think that says something about the differences in quality between Yerry Mina and every other centre-half at the football club. Although Michael Keane and Ben Godfrey played well, I just think we missed Yerry Mina's presence. I think Mikel Antonio had far too of an easy afternoon. Don't get me wrong, he didn't create an awful lot, and I think Michael Keane and Ben Godfrey dealt with him relatively well, but I think Yerry Mina would have dealt with him much, much better and would have given Everton more of an opportunity to go out and win that game. But as I said, they were okay. Seamus Coleman come in at right back. Abdoulaye Doucouré and Alan form part of a midfield with Alex Iwobi in there as well. And then, of course, the typical front three of Solomon Rondon up top leading the line, Demarai Gray and Andros Townsend. And as starting 11s go, given the injuries, given the problems we've got, given the fitness issues, given the fact that we knew Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison weren't going to be available, as squad goes and as team news goes, I was relatively happy with that starting 11. If there was one change I would have made, well, if there was a couple of changes I would have made, it would have obviously been Yerry Mina in, because I think he showed in recent weeks why he is our most important and best centre-back. However, I was fully understanding that he played on Thursday night into Friday morning. He played 100 minutes on Thursday night. He'd have to travel all the way back from Colombia, which is the other side of the world. I was fully understanding of the fact that he probably wasn't at the level of fitness that he needed to be in order to play in this game. Completely understood it and had no massive issue with Ben Godfrey and Michael Keane as a centre-back pairing. I think Ben Godfrey has done really well at right-back since coming in, and obviously fighting off, his fitness worries after, being out with COVID. And I think Michael Keane's done okay as well. Started the season poorly and was making mistakes, sort of game in, game out, but has sort of stabilised himself over the last couple of weeks or so. So I wasn't massively worried about that centre-back pairing, and I completely understood why Yerry Mina wasn't involved. The other change I would have made personally is I wouldn't have taken Anthony Gordon out for Alex Iwobi, and I'm not just saying this in hindsight because Alex Iwobi was absolutely shocking. I'm saying it in the sense that I sat down in the pub before the game when I read out the starting 11 and said it to me dad and everybody we were at the pub with. I think Anthony Gordon was absolutely brilliant against Manchester United the week before the international break. I thought he worked hard, I thought he battled, I thought he had 2 or 3 opportunities where he got forward and he put some really dangerous balls into the box. Now, yes, they didn't result in anything, and yes, he didn't get an assist or a goal, and I understand that. And, some people might say, well, hang on, yeah, he worked hard, but there was no end product at it. I get that completely, and I understand that, again, I may be clutching at straws a little bit here, but I just thought Anthony Gordon put his best performance in an Everton shirt in when we played Manchester United, plus it was at Old Trafford, plus it was against a very good Manchester United team. He worked hard, he got forward, he won the ball back on a number of occasions, he battled, he made it physical, he wasn't worried to put his foot in, or he wasn't scared to get involved, and quality-wise, had we have had, maybe Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison on the pitch, he might have picked himself up a couple of assists. So I thought it was harsh to take him out for a player in Alex Iwobi who, again, it wasn't particularly that I was against Alex Iwobi starting. It was more that I sort of looked at this and thought, well, what's Alex Iwobi done this season to warrant coming straight back into this Everton side to replace Anthony Gordon, who performed really well against Manchester United? And you might argue, well, Anthony Gordon didn't really do anything against Manchester United of note, but I thought his performance against United was much more impressive than any performance Alex Iwobi's put in this season. And again, that's not just me going at Alex Iwobi in hindsight because he was absolutely dreadful on Sunday, but I just felt that it was a little bit harsh on Anthony Gordon for him to have been taken out for a player who, it's not like we're talking about Richarlison here or Dominic Calvert-Lewin and we're sitting here going, yeah, well, okay, Anthony Gordon played well against Man United, but Dom's back today, or Richarlison's back today, or Alex Iwobi started the season, scoring for fun and getting assists. I know he had a relatively okay start of the season in the first couple of games, but since then, he's not done much whatsoever. So it's not like we're sitting here saying, yeah, but, again, Alex Iwobi's been amazing so far, so obviously he's going to go back in. Personally, I sat there on Sunday afternoon and thought, look, I think Anthony Gordon should have been in ahead of Alex Iwobi, and obviously in hindsight, which is a wonderful thing, maybe I was right, and there's no guarantee that Anthony Gordon would have done more than Alex Iwobi did on Sunday, but I just felt it was a little bit harsh to take him out the team. And then obviously, as I said, the front three of Solomon Rondon, Damari Gray and Andros Townsend. It was always going to be a case of Damari Gray and Andros Townsend, creating for us on Sunday. It was always going to be a case of them taking it in their own initiative, them sort of taking the game by the scruff of the neck and going and winning it for Everton. If anybody was going to win that game, on Sunday, it would have been one of those two. Now, consequently, it turns out that I think even if we were still playing today, we wouldn't have scored a goal. But, looking back on the team news, you looked at Andros Townsend and Damari Gray and sort of felt, right, okay, this is the quality. We haven't got Dominic Calvert-Lewin, we haven't got Richarlison. And I sort of, and again, maybe naively, maybe stupidly, but I sort of looked at Rondon playing up front and thought, well, do you know what? Maybe he's a lot fitter than he was in the game against Manchester United. He'd come in, obviously, off the back of not playing for 4 months. And I know I don't want to keep going on about that and banging on about it because I know everybody's mentioned it 1,000 times. But he's come off the back of not playing for 4 or 5 months, not playing Premier League football for, a matter of years. He very clearly wasn't fit. Very clearly wasn't at the level of fitness he needed to be. But I thought, you know what? He's had a couple of weeks rest. The manager come out a couple of days before the game against West Ham and said that he's working hard, insane, and every single day. He's scoring goals, insane, and every single day. He's impressing, insane, and every single day. Maybe, just maybe, we'll get a little bit more from Solomon Rondon this afternoon. I don't feel like West Ham United have got an unbelievable back line. I think they've got a back line that can certainly be attacked and can certainly be exposed. They were without Kufal at right back. They had the young lad at right back who played well, to be fair. But again, I was looking at it thinking, well, do you know what? Maybe Solomon Rondon is significantly fitter than he was before the international break. Maybe he's had that rest and he's had that time to recover, and he'll go a lot fitter now and maybe be of an an advantage to Everton. Turns out again, wrong. He wasn't really, was he? And look, we'll talk about Solomon Rondon and Alex Iwobi as the stream progresses. But I think with Solomon Rondon, I'm slowly getting to the point of forming the idea that he's just not good enough. He just isn't anywhere near good enough. Forget fitness. Fitness obviously comes into it, and it's clear that he's not fit. But just the little things, just the the balls being thrown across the 6-yard box by Demarai Gray and Josh Townsend, and him just not being there. That. Some people would say that's fitness. I'd say if you're a striker, you can be the unfittest striker on the planet, but you are within a certain area of the 6-yard box. You're there, you're poaching, you're the attacker, you're waiting for that ball to drop in that area. And even if you're not fit and you can't run around, you're in that area when the ball drops in there, because that's what strikers do. And he wasn't there, his touch wasn't great, his hold-up play wasn't great. I'm just, again, as I said, I'm getting to the point where I think, you know what? As a backup striker, as somebody to come on in the last 10 or 15 minutes of games to give Dominic Calvert-Lewin a rest when we're 2-0, 3-0 up, 3-1 up, to just battle and put his weight on opposition players and work them into the ground. Yeah, maybe he'll be of an asset, but as a starting striker, who's actively needing to go and get goals and score goals for this Everton team, I just don't think he's at that level. I don't think he is, or certainly hasn't shown it yet. Anyway, as I said, we'll get more into that as the season progresses. And like I said, Sunday afternoon sitting there, and I thought that's a good enough team. With the exception of maybe Yerry Mina being out, which wasn't ideal, but we sort of had the feeling would be the case. And as I said, for me, it would been Anthony Gordon over Alex Iwobi. It was a team that I was more than happy with. Looked at the West Ham team again. Very, very strong side. No injuries to that West Ham side, which was obviously a massive benefit for them. We had still Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison out, Seamus Coleman only just coming back. So they obviously had the advantage in regards to squads, and you could sort of tell that straight away as soon as the game kicked off. It was a very David Moyes type of performance, and by that, what I mean is very structured, very sort of physically sound. They battled. They're sort of, I suppose their first point of call was work hard and then sort of try and get that, that little bit of quality to create a chance and go and score a goal. If you wonder why I'm going to my pocket to pick up a tissue every now and then, I've got a little bit of a cold at the moment. It is just a cold. I'm absolutely fine other than that. Just a little bit of a runny nose. So if you wonder why every 5 minutes I'm going to my pocket to wipe my nose, it's because it's running and I don't want to sit here and have gunk running down my nose while I'm trying to talk. But as I said, a typical sort of David Moyes style setup, dead hard to break down, battle, work immensely hard. And I said on Friday, it was always going to be a case of, can Everton work as hard as West Ham United? Can Everton battle as much as they do and want the game as much as they do? And I was really confident that we could do that, because we turned up to Manchester United a couple of weeks before, the week before the international break. No doubt in my mind, being the underdog. Again, turning up with 2-3 key players out injured, or 2 strikers out injured, and unfit Solomon Rondon up front. And we sort of, I think, assessed either before that game or during that game that we needed to work an awful lot harder than they did in order to get something out of the game. And that's exactly what we did, and we got something out of that game, and we should have won it. So I was confident that Everton could go out and do that again on Sunday, sort of look at this West Ham team and think, right, we're going to have to match you, if not work harder than you, in order to get something, because your squad is in a better state than ours is at the moment. And we just couldn't seem to do that. As I said, the game sort of started, West Ham are controlling the balance of play. I don't think it was a particularly sort of one-sided game. I thought it was quite even, to be honest. I thought 0-0 would have been a rather fair result. I don't think West Ham created an awful lot of chances themselves. I don't think Everton created an awful lot of chances. We had 1 or 2 opportunities, don't get me wrong, but we didn't, have a plethora of chances that you're looking at thinking, oh my God, how haven't we scored them? And similar to West Ham, Antonio worked hard, battled, got himself into a couple of good areas, but it wasn't like we were sitting here saying, oh my God, these are absolutely walking all over us. I think on the balance of the play, they had the more of the ball, and I think they'd done better with the ball than what we did when we had the ball. As I said before, I think we looked scarily void of ideas and scarily void of any sort of real quality, which, look, it was bound to come back and bite us on the arse. Having Dominic Calvert-Lewin out for 6 weeks, having Richarlison out for 4 weeks, having, those 2 players who were our focal points up top, who were our goal scorers, who were our, the players that we look to win us games of football. I know Andros Townsend and Damari Gray have been fantastic so far, but it was always going to come to a point where, those two being out injured was going to come back and bite us on the arse. And it did on Sunday, and ultimately, as I said, for as much as I think it was an even game of football, for as much as I don't particularly think I was very impressed with West Ham, they had the better of the ball, and on the balance of the game, you would probably argue they maybe deserved it a little bit more than we did. They were better with the ball at their feet. They were better in possession. They were better at winning the ball back. And as I said, they might necessarily have created an awful lot, but they seem to have the ideas there to create chances. They seem to have the quality there to try and, make that happen. Whereas Everton, on the other hand, we really didn't. We seemed massively void of ideas, and more worryingly, as I've just spoken about in the Abdoulaye Doucouré video, we seemed tired. We will talk about Abdoulaye Doucouré because I think it's important, and hindsight, as I said, is a beautiful thing. I thought Abdoulaye Doucouré on Sunday didn't look his usual self. I thought he looked a little bit, not even second best to every ball, third best to every ball. Usually, if the ball's in the air, Abdoulaye Doucouré's there jumping to win it. If the ball's on the floor, he's there throwing his foot in to get involved to win the ball back. If it's bouncing around, he's there. On Sunday, there was a couple of times when not only was the ball in the air and Abdoulaye Doucouré wasn't there, but, a West Ham player, more often than not, it was Declan Rice, who I think is a good footballer. I don't think he's world class. I think he's a good footballer, but he controlled the game brilliantly, to be fair to him, on Sunday. More often than not, it was Declan Rice. They were able to pick the ball up from wherever it was, get it down, look around, and play a pass without any pressure on them whatsoever. And Doucouré was seemingly off the pace. And at the time, I put it down to he's just absolutely shattered. He's knackered. He's obviously played far too much football, and the role is, he's not been able to have a rest from this constant role of needing to be everywhere, at every point in the game. But it turns out, in hindsight, as we know now, he at some point throughout the game picked up a fracture on his foot, so he obviously wasn't able to get around the pitch as much as he as he could in the weeks prior, or battle as much as he could in the weeks prior. And losing that ability of Abdoulaye Doucouré made it nigh on impossible to win that midfield battle. As I said, I don't think West Ham are particularly unbelievable. I just think on Sunday they did the basics very, very well. They worked hard, they battled, and they were a solid, compact, tight unit. Whereas Everton, I suppose we were a solid, compact unit ourselves. It wasn't like we conceded 2 or 3 stupidly. We conceded a stupid goal from a corner, but we didn't have the quality in the midfield that they did. We didn't have the ideas that they did, and I do put that down to Abdoulaye Doucouré picking up that injury and us not really being able to get back in the game from that point, because Alan, for as good as Alan is, for as good as he is at winning the ball back, for as good as he is at getting involved and battling and being that little bulldog and that little pit bull in the midfield, he simply isn't mobile enough to be able to do the role of 2 players. That's why him and Abdoulaye Doucouré, that's why they benefit each other so much. That's why they complement each other so much, because they both bring different sides to their game. That, Abdoulaye Doucouré's, physical and quick and gets about the pitch and is, always winning the ball back and really good going forward. Alan mightn't be that, but Alan's a battler. He'll stick a foot in, he tracks back, he's good defensively, better than Abdoulaye Doucouré. So they complement each other brilliantly, and when you take one of those, skill sets out of that midfield pairing, the other player struggles to be able to replace that. And again, I think that was the case on Sunday. It's an old saying in football. It's a really old saying in football. The winner of this game will be decided by who wins the midfield battle. I can't begin to tell you how many games of football are decided by who is the better midfield. Who is the better midfield partnerships, who's got the better midfield players. So many games of football are decided by that that factor alone as to who has got the best midfield, who is the best midfielders on the pitch. And more often than not this season, Abdoulaye Doucouré and Alan have been the best midfielders on the pitch in any game that was played. On Sunday, they weren't. I think Declan Rice controlled the game far too easily. I think there was far too many times. Declan Rice isn't the fastest player either, by the way. And I'm not just slagging Declan Rice off at any West Ham fans watching. I think he's a really good player. But he's not the fastest. So it wasn't like every time he picked the ball up, you sort of blinked and he was miles away. If we were a little bit fitter, if we were a little bit, more clued up, maybe if Abdoulaye Doucouré didn't pick up that injury, he'd have been able to get to Declan Rice a lot quicker. He'd have been able to put a lot of more pressure on Declan Rice. He'd have been able to force him into making decisions a lot quicker. Whereas, I think the way the game went, Declan Rice is finding himself comfortably picking the ball up, moving it forward without even needing to break into a sweat, just sort of gliding forward at his own sort of pace without any sort of problem whatsoever. And that was a big worry for Everton, because he was always going to be their focal point. For as good as they have attacking players, the likes of Antonio, pardon me, who I think is a good player and a physical player and battles and works hard, he wasn't massively involved. He battled and he threw himself about. He wasn't massively involved. It was the ability of Declan Rice in that midfield that I think won West Ham the game. But it was ultimately, look, it was a tight game of football. There wasn't an awful lot in it. One goal in it, which for me is a ridiculously bad goal to concede from an Everton point of view. But, there wasn't an awful lot. It was a very tight game of football. And, you could look at it on one hand and say Everton did well to stay in it, given our injury concerns. You can look at it the other hand and say, when you can see the goal as silly as we did, you sort of think, well, why couldn't we have just held out? And if we'd have got a point on Sunday, on Sunday, I think we'd all be sitting here saying, do you know what, given the circumstance, given the injury problems, given where we are, it's not a bad point. That's take it and move on to Watford next week and look at going and getting 3 against Watford. If you're enjoying, by the way, so far, please hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. That would mean an absolutely massive amount to me. If you're watching live, get your thoughts in the live comments. We will be getting involved in the live comments very shortly. So if you are watching live, get your thoughts in the live comments. That would be absolutely perfect. If you're watching a YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below. Everton did create a couple of chances themselves. There was a couple of times when Damari Gray and Josh Townsend got down those wings, and certainly gives West Ham something to think about. As I said before, one of the things I'm most frustrated about in the fallout of this game, who do I think I am? In the fallout of this game is that we didn't trouble West Ham's defence enough. West Ham have got a decent defence. Kurt Zouma, who we know, good player, obviously played for Everton before, decent Premier League centre-back. Ogbonna obviously ended up scoring the goal, but again, decent Premier League centre-back. But I think with the quality that we had up front, Damari Gray's ability and Josh Townsend's pace and ability and form, I honestly think we should have given them a lot more problems than what we did. And maybe, pardon me, maybe had we have had Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison on the pitch, we would have. Maybe a lot of that is distributed to Solomon Rondon just either not being fit enough or not being good enough. But I just was a little bit disappointed that we didn't trouble them as much as I would have liked. But as I said, we did have our chances. There was a couple of times when Damari Gray and Josh Townsend got down that right and left hand side and threw balls into the box. There was one in the first half which was an absolutely wonderful chance, and I think it's Damari Gray comes up against Angela Ogbonna, takes him absolutely brilliantly, effortlessly, as Damari Gray does on his right side. Ogbonna's nowhere near him, puts a fantastic ball into the box. It flies past Solomon Rondon, and Alex Iwobi gets the ball caught underneath his feet. Now, let's have a little talk about Alex Iwobi for a moment, because that sort of situation in itself, I think, is poor, and I was disappointed with, because I think that's an opportunity that, again, in a game like this, fitness of the squad, obviously the injury to Abdoulaye Doucouré, which the players would have become accustomed to later on in the game, you can't miss chances like that. And you look at other players within the squad, your Dominic Calvert-Lewins, your Richarlisons, again, no real proof about Anthony Gordon, but I'd even maybe throw his name in the hat. And you think, had they have been in that situation Alex Iwobi was in, would they have got the ball caught underneath their feet and completely miskicked it? I don't think they would have. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin wraps his foot around that and rifles it into the roof of the net. I think Richarlison does the same, and I think Anthony Gordon at least gets some form of connection on it. But my disappointment with Alex Iwobi doesn't come from that opportunity. Listen, it would be drastically harsh of me to sit here and say Alex Iwobi was awful the other day. He was dreadful. He performed awfully because he missed that chance. Because anybody can miss a chance like that. Anybody, any footballer. It could have come into Dominic Calvert-Lewin and he'd have got the ball caught in between his feet. It could have come into Richarlison and he'd have done the same. How many world-class footballers? Cristiano Ronaldo done it the other week for Man United. So many footballers, whether you're the best in the world or whether you're just a normal, average footballer, have situations like that where they get into an opportunity like that, a good cross comes in and they get the ball stuck under the feet, or it just gets past them, and they should do a little bit better, and ultimately you're sitting there going, you should have done better there. Every footballer does it. That wasn't my issue with Alex Iwobi on Sunday. He worked alright, he worked hard, he ran around for a bit, he battled. He had another couple of opportunities in the second half specifically. One where he took it really, really well, took a shot and it got deflected, and one where he dragged the shot wide in the second half. Again, no issue with that. Not going to sit here and slate him for having shots and missing. Not going to sit here and slate him for, miskicking a ball. It was a really good opportunity and he should have done much, much better. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying he shouldn't, but I'm not going to sit here and slate him for miskicking that. My biggest worry with Alex Iwobi is that I sat here at the end of the game on Sunday and I was scrolling through Twitter at full time, not directly at full time, a couple of hours after, just, as you do, scrolling through social media, seeing what's going on, and there was a list of stats that were uploaded onto Twitter for Alex Iwobi's performance, and I'm not going to read them out and embarrass him. I'm not going to sit here and go into detail on them, but there was about 15, 16 stats put out there. One of them was minutes played. The rest of them, things like chances created, big chances missed, I think was one. But things like chances created, crossing accuracy, dribbling accuracy, this, that and the other, all 0. And I'm not joking. Again, I'm not going to sit here and read them out and embarrass him, but all 0. So my problem with Alex Iwobi isn't that he missed a chance in the first half, which was a great chance and it got called underneath him. Isn't that his shots that he took in the second half didn't go in. It's that everywhere else on that pitch, throughout the entire rest of that game, he was ineffective. And I don't even mean ineffective in the sense of that what he did, wasn't good enough. He didn't do anything. And that is my big problem with Alex Iwobi. If it was Dominic Calvert-Lewin who missed that chance, you'd pretty much be able to guarantee that for the rest of the game, at least the stats would have looked good. He'd have either gone and scored, another chance that he got, or, he'd have got on the end of crosses, or he'd have battled, or his cross and passing accuracy would have been good, or his shots on target would have been good, or dribbles, etc. Same with Richarlison. You look at Alex Iwobi's stats at the end of that game, and look, you can say it's a one-off. You can say, Cam, you can't go into arson him because that was only a one-off. That might just be a sort of a one bad game for him. But more often than not, when you look at Alex Iwobi's stats after a game of football, they're not very good. Now, this might have been a one-off where all of his stats were naught, and I don't know if they were accurate, but that's my biggest worry with Alex Iwobi. It's not the miss in the box. It's not the shots that didn't go in. It's the fact that for the rest of the game, barring those 3 moments that are 10-second moments, so that's 30 seconds combined, for the other 76 minutes that he was on the pitch before he was taken off for Anthony Gordon, he did nothing. And I look at Alex Iwobi and I think, you've had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity at Everton Football Club, not only over the past few seasons, but in this season alone. You've been given chance after chance after chance by the manager to impress, to come in and to show that you're good enough, to show that you can be, impactful, to show that you can have an effect on games, and you're not doing it. If Alex Iwobi, they're putting in 5, 6, 7 unbelievable crosses and they're being headed over by Solomon Rondon on Sunday, or he'd have dribbled past players 400 times, or he'd have had 5 shots on target but not scored, I'd have been sitting here going, do you know what? He worked hard, he battled, and his stats were actually really good. He was getting involved, he was throwing crosses in, he was creating chances. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything other than fluff an opportunity. So it's not the chance he fluffed, it's the fact that he was ineffective for the rest of the game, and that's my biggest problem and worry with Alex Iwobi, is that when are we going to come to a point where we look at him and go, you can't play 78 minutes in the Premier League and do fuck all. You just can't. Nobody can. If he was playing for Newcastle towards the bottom end of the table, if he was playing for Watford, Norwich towards the bottom end of the table, they wouldn't put up with a player who was playing that amount of time and not having an impact on the game. And again, I'm not going at Alex Iwobi. I want Alex Iwobi to succeed at Everton Football Club as much as I want any player. In fact, I think he seems like a really nice fella. I think he seems like a lovely lad. And I think he's very clearly got ability there, because we've seen it at times. We've seen how good of a technical footballer he can be, but he just doesn't show it enough. And there's far too many times that he's ghosting games of football. So by any stretch, if he's watching, which he won't be watching, or anyone at Everton's watching, go and prove everybody wrong. Go and prove everybody wrong, because if you can't, you won't be at this club for much longer because performances like that just aren't good enough. We are going to talk about Solomon Rondon in a moment as well. I do want to talk about the two centre-halves because I think they performed really well as well. And obviously we're going to talk about the goal, the second half. As I said, first half I suppose come to a close, didn't it? Not much happened, does it? It was a very poor half for Everton. We come into it in the last sort of 5-10 minutes, but only in the sense of that I think West Ham, sort of calmed down with how much they were controlling the ball. Everton had a little bit more of the ball. As I said, we got forward. We had that chance with with Alex Iwobi. We had a couple of corners, and yeah, we nothing really came off them. But we looked marginally better. We still didn't look great. We looked marginally better towards the end of the first half than what we did at the start of it. And you were sort of hoping that Benitez would be able to go in at half time, rile them up, and get a reaction in the second half. We will be talking about in the second half in just a moment, but let's get into the live comments before we do that. If you're watching and you're enjoying, by the way, as I said before, please hit that like button. It does only take a second, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. That would be absolutely fantastic as well. Last of the Corinthians 1878 says, alright Cam, alright my mate, hope you're doing well. Andrew says, hi Cam, massive blow, the Corey being out. It certainly is, mate, an absolutely gigantic, humongous blow. As I said, we're not going to talk too much about Abdoulaye Doucouré's injury in this live stream. We have uploaded a separate video that is live on the channel now, where I sat down for 20 odd minutes and talked about the injury, what it means to Everton, what it means to the system, Benitez's system, his tactics, his style, his substitutes, etc. So if you haven't checked that out, wait until the end of this stream, stick with us with this one. But while you're having your tea later, or you're having a biscuit, or you're having a brew, there's some footy on tonight in some European competition that no one's asked about. Go and give that little video a watch. But we will mention Abdoulaye Doucouré. As I said, we've already spoken about him a couple of times. In hindsight, again, you might think, Cam, you're just saying this now because you know he's injured. But I did sit here and think, I said it in the player ratings on Sunday before we knew he was injured, that he wasn't at his usual best. There seemed to be something up. And obviously we know what that was now. Jason says, hi Cam and everybody. Hi Jason. Paul says, with the Duke out, time for Gbamin to finally step up to the plate. Well, let's be honest, is Jean-Philippe Gbamin fit and ready to step up to the plate? I don't know. He hasn't played an awful lot of football recently. You would like to have thought that if he was fit, that the manager would have had the trust in him to at least come on and replace Abdoulaye Doucouré in the last 5-10 minutes of games. Maybe the manager hasn't felt like that was the right thing to do. I don't know, but one thing's for sure, Gbamin has picked up an injury already this season. So is he able to step in and do that Abdoulaye Doucouré role? I don't think he is, personally. I'm not saying he's not able to step in and have some form of role and perform well at all, but I just don't think there's anybody that can step in and do the Doucouré role. I do seriously think we'll now see a change of system, a change of style, and a change of way of playing from Everton. Paul says, bad news about Doucouré, maybe we should harp on about it like Liverpool do. Here, Sky Sports announced it was a year today since Van Dijk got injured. Yeah, listen mate, as I said, if this was Liverpool or Man United or Man City or Chelsea that had these injuries, they wouldn't play. They'd turn around and say, we're not playing. Either give us 300 million to spend in an emergency transfer window, or we're not playing. They wouldn't. They're still banging on about the fact that they had 47 centre-back partnerships, even though they had 2 fit centre-backs throughout the whole course of that, and they only changed because they didn't think they were good enough. They still bang on like, oh, we had loads. Nonsense, mate. Shut up. But it won't be all over Sky because it's Everton. Jason says, Iwobi look useless. Rondon isn't fit and Graham Townsend couldn't do it for us. There you go. Stephen says, still furious Iwobi and Rondon. He'd been in there offering nothing. I'm sick of seeing Iwobi too short of performances this year. He started and wouldn't even put him on the bench. Well, we haven't got many options to put on the bench, have we? So, Stephen says, Rondon will never be fit. He's had plenty of time now. He looked like he was jogging in quicksand. William says, hey guys, everybody doing? I'm good, mate. Hope you're doing well. Jason says, Rondon isn't fit. Cam would score more. Feeling okay. Thanks for me. Listen, he isn't fit. And some might say, boss song, by the way. Absolutely boss song. Some might say that, when Rondon is at that peak level of fitness, whatever his peak level of fitness may be, that he will be of an asset to Everton Football Club. And I'm not anybody to sit here and disagree or agree with that statement. However, he isn't anywhere near the level of Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. And the reality of the situation is, if he's going to be starting up front for Everton, we need him to be at the level of Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. Rondon is fit now, though. That's what Rondon is not very good. Stephen says Sims or Dobbin should be coming on and getting game time because these players will never come through and we will be in a mess next season. Well, Sims is injured, I think. Sims picked up an injury a couple of weeks ago. Was seen with the protective boot on just before the international break. So I don't know where he's up to with his rehabilitation. Pardon me, but I think he is injured. And Lewis Dobbin, yeah, there's definitely a shout there for him to be getting more game time and getting involved a lot more. But, you know, again, he's still very young, still a young lad, still very inexperienced. The manager might be looking at it going, you know, I mean, I would have rather have Rondon on there. Personally, I think there's no harm in putting it. I'm not a massive advocate of starting Lewis Dobbin for the reasons that the manager probably isn't either. Don't think he's experienced enough. I'm not 100% confident to be able to deal with the Premier League or the physicality or the pace or the speed of the Premier League. I get why he wouldn't be starting games. What I don't get is on the 70th, 75th minute when Solomon Rondon is blown out of his arse and has been for the last 75 minutes, is completely ineffective in the game and not bringing anything, and we're struggling, why you wouldn't just put Lewis Dobbin on. You know, he mightn't be ready to start. He mightn't be ready to have that impact from the off, but why not give him 20, 25, 30 minutes towards the end of a game if Solomon Rondon is not doing anything whatsoever, which, let's be honest, has been the case for the last few weeks. Remy says, for me, another poor decision in recruitment now, just another 30-plus year old taking up space and time and wages where he could have a young player prospect for the spot or to sell Rondon on his need there. Listen, again, I think he probably works hard, probably trains hard, probably got the right attitude, but yeah, he's just not good enough at the minute, is he? And maybe he never will be. Eugene says the Corey's out injured now. He is. Whammy said that best not be true. I take it you didn't know, Whammy. You clearly haven't seen the other video. Yeah, he has fractured a bone in his foot. Everton have confirmed it. They've confirmed he doesn't need an operation. Fabrizio Romano said on Twitter earlier that he will be out for around 6 to 7 weeks. And Abdoulaye Doucouré replied to that tweet with a couple of emojis, so suggesting that that would be the case, that he would be out for around that time. For a bit of context, Whammy, 6 weeks is the 30th of November, which is the day before the Merseyside derby, and 7 weeks is the 7th of December and the week after the Merseyside derby. So there you go. Sol says Doucouré is the biggest blower, though it's not the club's fault. Duke, Richie and Dom are injured. The same scenario with our squad depth every season. Time for Gbamin to show us what he's about. Well, yeah, if he's fit, I'm sure he'll get his chance. Stephen says we are cursed as a club. Jason says we didn't have any choice but sign Rondon as he was cheap. And William says inevitable at some point Alan and Doucouré won't be fit. I was hoping to see Gbamin, but not even getting on as a sub. I'm losing hope. We could have not signed him, Jason, for piss sake. Well, yeah, look. Let's wait and see to see if Gbamin A is fit and B is given a chance. Whammy says A, just red, broken foot, that's 2 months at least. We will see Gbamin come on, Jean-Philippe, you can do it. Gbamin fit, says Adam in the training video. He says only just come in, mate. Sorry before the answer there. The answer is, mate, I don't know. I don't know. I think he was on the bench on Sunday, didn't come on. Obviously, he hasn't featured for a few weeks now. He did have an injury a couple of weeks ago that he had to overcome. So the question is, the answer to your question is, I don't know. I really, really don't know. Gbamin is not listed injured and is in the training video, says Whammy. We'll wait and see, won't we? We'll wait and see. Anyway, let's get back into talking about the game on Sunday, and then we will get back into the live comments. As I said, if you're watching and you're enjoying, please hit that like button. It does only take a second, and if you're new, don't forget to subscribe. That would mean an absolutely massive amount to me. If you're watching as a YouTube video, get your thoughts in the comment section down below. We'll get involved with as many of them as we possibly can. If you're watching live, get your thoughts in the live comments and we'll get involved with them as well. Of course we will. Get your thoughts in the live comments. Share the stream as well on social media if you can. Let's try and get as many people involved as we possibly can. As I said earlier, for anybody new joining, if you're wondering why I keep going to my pocket and pulling out a tissue, I've got a little bit of a cold. I'm absolutely fine. Everything else is fine. I've just got a runny nose, so I don't want to be sitting here talking and having shite running down my nose while I'm doing it, because it might disturb from what I'm saying. More often than not, I'm usually talking shite anyway, but you know, I'd rather you listen to the talking shite than the shite that's coming out my nose. Not that it's anything illegal, in case you get that impression. It's just snot. Anyway, look, enough of that vulgar talk. Let's move on back to the game. So the second half, as I said, not the greatest first half of football by any stretch of anybody's imagination. I think Everton were really, really poor. I don't think West Ham were particularly great themselves. However, ultimately, at the end of the day, they controlled the ball a lot more. They controlled the possession of the play. They controlled the sort of outcome of a lot of the play. And they were, I'd say, the more dominant team in that first half. If anybody deserved to go in at half-time with a win, by winning, you would have probably edged towards West Ham. Although it was very even, for as much as they had a lot of the ball, for as much as they were more dominant in midfield, they didn't really do anything with it to suggest that, they were unlucky to not go in at a 1-0. It was quite a even, boring, crap game of footy, wasn't it, really, in the first half? And as I said, you're sort of hoping that Everton can come out in the second half and bring something a little bit more. We've seen it a number of times this season. We've seen it a number of times at home already. Game against Burnley, game against Southampton on the opening day of the season, even Norwich to an extent. All games where we weren't very good in the first half, but then we come out in the second half and we were much, much better. And you were hoping for the same in this one. However, it never came, did it? I suppose, it was always going to come at one point where, we were shite in the first half and then consequently shite in the second half and weren't absolutely amazing in the second half. And it was this game on Sunday again. Nothing really changed. West Ham continue to control the ball. They continue to control the play. They continue to be the much better team, the team that looked the more promising going forward. As I said before, I thought both centre-halves had a really, really good game, to be honest. Both Michael Keane and Ben Godfrey. I thought they worked hard. Thought they battled defensively. I thought they were very solid. Pretty much every ball that come near. At Michael Keane he dealt with. Yes, there was a couple of moments. There was moments where he maybe struggled. There was moments where he maybe should have done better. But I think for the majority of that first and second half, really, I think the both of them were really, really solid. Specifically, Michael Keane, thought he dealt with everything in the air. Thought he managed Antonio to as good of a degree as he can. I was a little bit nervous coming into this one with Michael Keane and Ben Godfrey being asked to manage Antonio, because I think you're sort of looking at Yerry Mina thinking, big physical centre forward, quick, battle, can put his weight about. You sort of want Yerry Mina in there to be able to deal with him, because for me, he's our best centre half. But I think to give Michael Keane his due and to give him his credit, he done a good job at dealing with Antonio. He done a good job at keeping him at bay. He done a good job at ensuring that, he wasn't creating chances. He wasn't getting forward, and ultimately he wasn't getting shots on goal. And I thought he'd done that well. I thought Ben Godfrey, as I said, very, very similarly, did the same very well. Worked hard, battled, put a couple of really, really good sliding challenges in as well, which were obviously massively beneficial to Everton. And dealt with the defensive duties whatsoever. At this point, we were very clearly being overrun in the midfield. I think at this point, Abdoulaye Doucouré had picked up his injury, so he wasn't playing to the level that we needed him to be playing at. Alan was struggling to be able to sort of fill that void that Doucouré was ultimately leaving. The forward players at this point weren't getting many a chance whatsoever. We had a couple of half opportunities here and there. Again, as I said, Alex Iwobi had another shot where the ball gets played in, I think, from Damari Gray again. He sort of cuts inside, takes it inside, takes a shot, and it's deflected out for the corner. There was one where Andros Townsend put an absolutely beautiful ball into the box, right on Solomon Rondon's head, and he headed it straight at the goalkeeper. And he ended up, he headed one straight out and headed one straight at the goalkeeper. And like I said, West Ham very similarly getting forward, creating the odd half chance, but more often than not it'd go out or it'd be comfortable enough for Jordan Pickford to deal with. I thought both fullbacks done okay at holding the game, and then obviously West Ham get a corner, quite a controversial corner. I said originally on the instant match reaction that I don't think it was ever a corner because I was sat right in front of it and it didn't. I haven't watched the replay, but I've been told by many a West Ham fan, and to be fair, many a Everton fan, that it was a corner. There is certainly a question as to whether or not it should have been a foul, I think, on Jordan Pickford, but again, look, let's put all that aside. The referee, I thought, was it Stuart Atwell? I thought he was absolutely shocking. That fella is dreadful every time he referees a game of football, but I thought he was specifically bad on Sunday. I thought he was absolutely embarrassing. It was a shocking officiating performance by the referee. But anyway, he gives a corner, and ultimately Everton should have been prepared to be able to deal with that corner at that time. As I said, it was a very tight game. It had sort of 0-0 written all over it, but it was always, if it was going to end in a team winning, it was always going to be 1-0. It was always going to be extremely tight, and it was always going to be 1-0. And the corner comes in. It's very, very close to Jordan Pickford's line. He doesn't come out and deal with it. None of the defenders decided to tackle Ogbonna, which baffles me because he was very clearly, along with Antonio and maybe Kurt Zouma, the biggest aerial threat in that box at that time. Nobody decided to go anywhere near him. It's very close to Jordan Pickford. Ogbonna gets a touch on it and it's in the opposite corner of the goal. And all of a sudden, Everton find themselves 1-0 down with 15 minutes to go in a game that, as I said before, I think we could have still been playing to this day and we still wouldn't have scored. Rondon at this point was a liability, wasn't doing anything, couldn't move, wasn't trapping a ball. Like I said, the chances that he had, again, some really, really good balls put into some really dangerous areas by both wingers, and he wasn't doing anything. The manager made the change ball on Anthony Gordon for Alex Iwobi, but it seemed far too late for Anthony Gordon to be able to do anything. Lewis Dobbin didn't come on. Nobody else come on. I think Tom Davis come on for 5-10 minutes? I can't even remember. Pardon my arrogance. I can't even remember. I don't think Tom did. I think it was just Anthony Gordon that come on, didn't he? But yeah, as I said, we find ourselves 1-0 down, and again, I don't want to sit here and go, right, who's to blame for this one? Whose fault is this? But I do feel like Jordan Pickford should be doing better. Mr. Dominic says, well, firstly he says, I've come online to tell you how Pickford is shite. I think that's a bit reactionary. But then he says, not a controversial current at all. Pickford had one of his brain fart moments. I do think that Jordan should have done better. I think when a ball is crossed in and it's that close to your goal, you've got to be coming out and making a decision. Now, I think Jordan Pickford's got 3 options in this one. He either stays in his goal and doesn't come out, which he did, and ultimately ended up in a goal. I think he runs out and punches the ball and clears it away from everybody and the danger's averted. Or I think he comes out and attempts to punch the ball and gets clattered by either Ogbonna or any other West Ham player or an Everton player. And in that case, we win a foul. So there's 3 scenarios there. 1, we concede. And 2, I know it's easier said than done, but 2, we don't concede him. And I think if Jordan had come out and either gotten rid of that ball into the box or just threw himself at it and ensured that, right, okay, if I'm not going to get to it, I'm going down and throwing myself into somebody so that I can go down and I can say to the referee, that's a foul. Because they're giving us a foul all day long in the Premier League, all day long. So it would have been given, no doubt about it, it would have been given. But he doesn't again. He sort of sticks on his line, and it's that decision-making that lets Jordan down at times. Eugene says, do you play Pickford against Watford or John Begovic? I play him all day long because even that mistake by Jordan Pickford, he still hasn't made as many mistakes as Asmir Begovic has this season. I play him all day long. It's one lapse of concentration, lapse of judgment, but it's a lapse in concentration that's lost us a game. Now, maybe you disagree and say Jordan can't do more there, the defence have to do more. Again, each to their own, but I just think he should have been a bit more dominant there. And as I said, from that point on, it was always going to be massively difficult. Everton never really looked like scoring all game. Solomon Rondon, the chances that he had, as good of the chances they were that were created for him, he never looked like he was going to be able to, put them into the back of the net or, again, convert them. Alex Iwobi, as I said before, again, had a couple of shots, but they dragged wide. Other than that, didn't really do anything in the game. And, ultimately Everton go on and lose the game. There was another opportunity that West Ham had. A couple of minutes later, Jarrett Bowen picks the ball up in the box and fires it at Jordan Pickford, and Jordan makes an absolutely wonderful save, to be fair. You've got to hold your hands up and admit that the save he made from Jarrett Bowen was an absolutely fantastic save. But, as I said, and I know I've said it, and I know some people might say, Cam, you're repeating yourself, but I honestly do believe that we could have still been playing that game of footy now and we wouldn't have scored. We just didn't really look like a threat. As much as Andros Townsend and Damari Gray were working hard and were putting balls into the box, they weren't really creating, opportunities for themselves, and don't particularly blame them for that. They weren't really creating opportunities for themselves. Anthony Gordon was struggling to get into the game. Decore obviously was playing with an injury at this point. Solomon Rondon was absolutely non-existent. And as I said on Sunday, the lad seems like an absolutely fantastic fella. He seems like a professional. He seems like he works hard, and he's obviously got a prior relationship with the manager. And for a backup striker to come on in the last 5 or 10 minutes of games to tire opposition defenders out, maybe he's got a role to play in this Everton team, but that role certainly isn't as a striker. It certainly isn't as a number 9. And we saw why on Sunday. And as I said, the game carries on. comes to an end. Everton have lost 1-0. Rafa Benitez's first defeat as Everton manager at Goodison Park. How ironic is it that falls to David Moyes' West Ham side? How many times did David Moyes face Rafa Benitez at Goodison Park in his time at Everton, and how many times did he fail to beat him? As soon as Rafa Benitez manages Everton, well, that's it then. It's easy as day. But as I said, the thing that annoyed me the most, the thing that frustrated me the most, is this isn't a brilliant West Ham team. It's a good West Ham team. It's a very solid West Ham team, and it's a West Ham team that are managed brilliantly by a very good manager. But it's not an unbelievable West Ham team. It's not a West Ham team that I look at and go, they are a level above us. They're not. They had a much fitter squad, and they had a full strength squad. But even considering that, I think we should have been doing better. You look at the work rate and the effort that we put in against Manchester United, the battle, the desire, the fight, the passion, and we couldn't match that on Sunday. And I fear, given what we know now regarding Abdoulaye Doucouré, I fear that that's because we were lacking that energy from Abdoulaye Doucouré, that we couldn't match that energy that we provided against Manchester United, and therefore we went and lost the game. We lost to a side that are very compact, very tight, and do the basics very well. Nothing more, nothing less, do the basics very well, and we couldn't do that on Sunday. And look, ultimately, we have to put it behind us, and we have to go again on Saturday against Watford. We'll wait and see how that one, we'll wait and see how that one pans out, won't we? Let's get back into the live comments then, before we do finish up this live stream. If you're watching live and you want to get involved before we finish up, get your thoughts in the comments right at this very second. And if you are enjoying, leave a like, by the way. It only takes a second. As I said, I have done a separate video talking about the Abdoulaye Doucouré injury, so if you're thinking, why isn't Cam giving his opinions, I've already done it on a separate video, so go and check that one out after this stream. Wemmy says, told you the Iwobi being back was neither here nor there, Cam. I just think he is a decent with his feet, but I think he's a headless chicken. I mean, can that be proven wrong after Sunday? Jason says, at times Iwobi reminds me of Yannick Bolasie, runs round but not much else. Fair enough. Wemmy says, club is saying it's a stress response injury. That would suggest a stress fracture in a bone. Yes, it would. That is what Fabrizio Romano said as well. No operation required, but a stress fracture. I think there was initial rumours surrounding it being his metatarsal. I think that's what a couple of journalists reported. But obviously that wasn't specified by Everton. Remy says unlikely he carried on playing with an injured tendon. Eugene says Everton need to play Gordon now after Doucouré's injured. I don't think Gordon can come in to replace Doucouré. I think Gordon needs to come in to replace Iwobi, if I'm being honest with you. Sean says we're going to have to use our under-23 players. It's the only way. Give John Joe Kenny and Gordon a chance. Not John Joe Kenny. He is nowhere near good enough to be an Everton starter in the Premier League. Anthony Gordon, there's a potential here, but not John Joe Kenny for me. Damien says Camus comes in now to cover Doucouré. I hope Gordon gets some game time. It's interesting because, as I said, I don't think that there's anybody that can come in to directly replace Abdoulaye Doucouré. I just don't think that there is. So whoever comes in, I think there's going to have to be a change of system. I think there's going to have to be a change of style. The injuries were dropping like flies, says Sean. Yeah, I agree. I know where me mate, but it's all we have, says Sean. Wimmy says John Joe Kenny has had a chance. Sean, he is terrible. Wimmy says Godfrey is better at right back than Kenny. We need a right back in January as we have the last 4 windows at least. I agree. Damien says Dobbin injured after the under-23s game. He did pick up an injury. We're waiting to see the diagnosis on that one. Yeah, again, as I said, nobody has worse luck than we do. We should start at hospital, says Wimmy. Yeah. Uden says Rafa needs to put Rondon on the subs bench against Watford this weekend. Well, hopefully Richarlison will be back. We need, if Dom isn't going to be back, we need Richie back for Saturday, no question. Let's just touch wood and cross our fingers. Hopefully Dom's back as well, but at least one of them. Wemmy says, Jesus, Dobbin potentially out for the season with a knee injury. Sol says, I think people are confusing the Rondon and Newcastle and West Brom to the Rondon, and now he's a couple of years older and has been playing a poor quality of football. He's a safety cap of a player. That's fair enough. Ewan says, I think Rafa needs to buy in the January transfer window for cover. He does. Hopefully Doucouré will be back by January, but it's not ideal that we're in a situation where Doucouré's picked up an injury and we can't replace him. It comes to a point where I'm looking at the Everton team and I'm looking at like-for-like natural replacements for Abdoulaye Doucouré without the need to change the system or the style or the formation or the tactics, etc. And the only player that comes to mind isn't Jean-Philippe Gbamin. He is maybe the second in the list. And again, he's a player that's been out for however long with injury. The only player that comes to mind is young Tyler Onyango, who's had very little first-team experience. Not even sure if he's played a Premier League game. I don't think he has. And has just come back from a massive injury. That shows the dire situation that we're in at the moment. But yeah, there you go. Wayne says he scored 12 at his best starting for Newcastle. He was never very good, just a big unit, but mostly ineffective now. Yeah, Danny says Benitez has got to be Everton that manager in recent memory. No money to spend, and the players he has dropping like flies. Yeah, hard to disagree. We have the cover for Gore, Gelf, and Gabama Minus, Maximus says, Wormy. Here you go. Mr. Dominic says Begovic is no better. I'd bring Robles back. I would also sign that Swedish centre forward from Coventry. I can't even pronounce that name, mate. But there you go, fair enough. Wormy says we kept West Ham to 1 goal. Defence didn't lose, let us down. Attack let us down. It is the Prem now, very difficult to keep clean sheet. You have to score goals every game. Yeah, I agree. I don't think the defence did let us down. As I said, I thought both centre halves were very, very good at the weekend. Mr. Thomas says there's never been a brilliant West Ham team. This is the best West Ham team I've ever seen. I'd agree. And as I said, they're still not great. But they played very, very well at the weekend. You can't take it away from them. Wayne says Moyes has had an extra year and sans fears Moyes is a good manager. West Ham know how to win a game of football and we still have a lot of work to do. Yeah, Mr. Dominic says West Ham were outplayed by Brentford at times. I'd agree. Ed says, do you see us buying 2 or 3 in January? Can maybe a loan too. Just subscribe, mate. Love it. Thank you very much, Ed. Really appreciate that, my mate. Thank you very much. In regards to your question, hopefully we go out and do. Listen, we know it's notoriously difficult to do any sort of business in January because, you know, teams know that you're desperate. They had an extra 20, 30 million pounds on players' price tags, and more often than not, you get players that, you know, nobody really wants, because any player that anybody really wants, the big teams sort of go for because they've had a good start to the season, or, you know, their teams manage to keep a hold of them to the summer on the promises that they'll be able to go in the summer, and you end up paying ridiculous amounts of money for them. Marcel Brands doesn't like to deal in January, we know this, but we do need to go out and spend some money. We do need to go out and bring some players in because the squad depth at the moment is scarily thin. Wayne says, well, it is Gabam, don't say Holgate as on Yango recovered back in training. Well, he played yesterday for the under-23s and apparently performed really well. There is that question about Holgate and Godfrey coming in. Maybe we'll chat about that tomorrow on who can come in and replace Abdoulaye Doucouré. But as I said last week in my video, I personally think he's the most important player in this Everton team, and he's going to be a massive miss. Did you watch the live stream of the under-23s game last night? I didn't, mate. I was busy, but I know that they come back from 2-0 behind to win. Damien says, on a different note, anyone seen the new Venom film yet? I haven't. It's on my list, as is the new Halloween, but I need to watch Halloween 2018 first, and that's on the list for the next couple of days. Maybe tonight. And Wayne says everyone has struggled with Brentford. Yeah, I think it is. Anyway, look, we're going to finish it up there. Then if you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. Once again, a massive thank you to everybody for joining us in the live comments. I really do appreciate it. If you're watching a YouTube video, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, and we'll get involved with as many of them as we possibly can. How did you feel about the game? Were you disappointed? Are you over it now? Just sort of think, you know what? Let's move this one. Let's move it on and get on with it, and look forward to the next one. Let us know in the comments. As I said, we have uploaded another video talking about Abdoulaye Doucouré's injury and giving my thoughts on it, so don't forget to check that out if you haven't already. Big thanks for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed it. Dominic says, I love how Brentford play. Yeah, they're a very, fearless side, and it's great to see. Damien says, being linked with Lacazette from Arsenal, seeing that. Scored last night, of course. Damien says, nice one, Cam, mate. Cheers, Damien. Everton Azul, what's happening? He says, big hugs. Thank you very much. And Eugene says, see you back to toffees. Cheers, Eugene. Massive thank you for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. And we will see you soon on the Mighty Blues. Cheers for watching. See you after.